Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye up, bye up. Let's get to the intro. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that the gun stays kicking. And I appreciate your support. I'm very humbled by it. So let's talk about the brothers, right? The blacks, the black car incarcerated in the CDC or any system. But we're talking about particularly, is that how you say it? Particularly, right? Particularly, I can't say it. I just can't say it. I might as well start this video over. In particular, we're talking, all right? Look, man, it's early in the morning. I ate a whole bunch of turkey yesterday. You guys got to bear with me. In particular, we're talking about the African American car, the black car, the brothers, the Crips, the Bloods, the Muslims, the non-affiliates. Man, they're deep. Okay. There is a lot of brothers behind the scenes and in front of the scenes right there incarcerated in the California Department of Corrections. And there's a lot of people talking about a certain situation that has occurred lately. And it involves, I guess you can call him a content creator, because at this point, that's what he kind of is. And his name is Little B Brazy, right? And he's a blood that's locked up in the CDC and somehow, some way got a hold of a phone. And in doing so, decided instead of just taking care of business behind the scenes with a cell phone, right, has decided to kind of go viral, man, and just start producing all these videos in his cell talking about other people, most notably Blueface, right? He's talked a lot about Blueface, kind of exposed Blueface for being on certain yards, and he's talked about a lot of other people. He's basically speaking on black business, which is his right because he's black, right? He has every right to do that. But at the same time, in between time, the code of conduct while incarcerated, kind of the untold rules, he's kind of just bypassing or skipping all that and putting a lot of people's safety and security in danger. And even more so, he's putting himself in a situation, and his clock ran out. Okay, he put himself in a situation the other day that got him on the ass end of a DP. That ain't right. Now, there's a whole bunch of stories floating around on what happened to Lil B Brazy, why he got DP'd. Did he really get DP'd? Is it black business, and should everyone stay out of it and stop making videos about it? Here's the breakdown on the whole thing, right? There's a lot of stories going around, but one I could say that is facts is that he did get into some type of trouble for the videos and he was posting and the things he was speaking on. Okay, when you start trying to mentor street gang members from behind the scenes, behind the walls, and you try to incite them to go at their opposition on the streets, you have to be aware that while incarcerated, you are around them same opposition. And if you're not doing what you're saying, if you're not leading by example and telling them, if you're telling people, youngsters, hey, get off where you're mad at, go out there. These are your enemies. These aren't your peoples. You need to do this. You need to do that to them. You need to prove yourself to who? To him, right? But at the same time, you're going to kick back and bust spreads in prison with the same people that you're telling this guy to get off on. Either one or two things is going to happen. Either those guys that you're inciting against are going to have something to say and they're going to incite against you, or that youngster's going to turn around and say, damn, bro, what's up, OG? You're telling me to do this, but you ain't doing it. Now, I don't know Little B Brazy from a box of honeycombs, but one thing I do know about him is it seems like every time he puts out a video, it's a little bit controversial because he's always speaking on someone as far as, in a negative light, in a negative fashion. And he's gained the attention of a lot of people on the streets that are saying either he's full of shit and a lot of the things he said has been exposed as lies. Like the whole Blueface situation, saying Blueface was a 50-50 and Blueface was no good and Blueface was this. It's been disproven, man. People have said that Blueface was actually on the yard with them. There was people that he was around on those yards that say, hey, Blueface might have not been the writer he says he was out there putting in all the work, but he most definitely did his time in a correct fashion. You can't take it away from him. And even more so, even if he was on a 50-50 yard or doing his thing, the brothers' politics are a little bit different. They could function because it's not a 50-50 yard to them. Okay, it's only a 50-50 yard to the Mexicans and the whites that politic that way. The brothers' politic totally different. I've always said the brothers program is more based upon street politics, street gangs, and that they're the one and only group that I know of that when you get incarcerated in the California Department of Corrections in the county jails, you have to catch that fade with your enemy. Now that's some old wide tactic shit. Back in the days, the Southerners used to do that. I remember the Southsiders. If you got a guy from 18 in Florencia that happened to come into each other's fucking proximity, right? Then it was going down because they were still playing street gang stuff. But when you become Mexican or when you're Mexican and you become part of a group in the California Department of Corrections, all that shit is left to the past. All that is street shit, homie. It's nonsense. You come together for power, and that's just how it is. Now, the brothers are a little bit different. You still have to take your fades in the county jail. You still have to, do what you got to do. And I've always respected that with the brothers, man. They don't let it stop at the gate. They don't say, hey, man, you killed my homeboy, you did this, and now we're just going to be cool. And because we're fighting a different fight. Hey, if you're a gang member, that fight's always going to be there. Because, I've seen it boil over plenty of times with North, with South, where there's a dude on the yard that was involved in maybe a killing that happened with one of your family members or something like that. And, they're feeling some type of way. Now, you're always able to handle your personal business, but you got to handle it. And that's just how that goes. And, like within the Norteño movement, if, say, a homeboy comes in from San Jose or wherever, and he was involved in maybe doing something bad to one of my family members, if I was to push that issue and get off on him, well, now that's red on red, and I'm all bad for doing that. I can't touch another Norteño. So it was kind of a situation where, like, you're gangbanging on the streets going at it. It's frivolous. It's frivolous at the end of the day, right? Back to B Brazy, man. It's been thrown out there that he caught a DP. Now, there's a whole bunch of different variations of the story with this dude. And I know it's black business, and there's going to be people that get on my line and say, hey, stop speaking on black business. Nah, man, once it hits the internet, it's everybody's business, man. It's put out there. I'm here to diffuse a situation that I see and a bunch of lies that are being spoken on when it comes to this individual. First of all, he was not ran off of any yard. People are saying, oh, man, he was beat up, got his phone took, was ran off the yard. He's now in PC or on a 50-50 yard. First of all, I got a whole bunch of explanations to do when it concerns 50-50 yards and brothers. And we're going to break it down right now. That's just a fact. If you're a brother, man, I'm going to give you some game. Hey, I'm going to give you game, but not give up the game. Some knowledge you can't get in college. And this is just facts. Look, this guy was getting a little too outspoken. And within the brother community, right? DPs are handed out like ass whoopings back in the 90s. It ain't nothing to it, right? If you do something out of the ordinary or start attracting negative attention that could get everybody's cell phones, everybody's program popped, you can get the fucking unit, the building search, the yard search. Well, guess what? Not only is your people going to hold you accountable and feel some type of way, but everyone else is. See, when you're on the internet, especially in prison, which is some new school shit, right? People have been doing it now for a couple of years, but not as outlandish as this guy was. If you're on the internet doing your thing and you're talking, you're gaining a lot of attention, a lot of traction, a lot of smoke because you're talking a lot of shit about people. What's going to happen is the authorities are going to see that video. Either it's going to be forwarded to them by one of the haters, or they're just watching. They actually got task force and people that actually watch YouTube, watch all different social media platforms because they're trying to get crime solved. And look, people are the first ones to run to the comments and solve crime for the investigators. Oh, no, I wasn't over there. It was on this street. That's the dude. Oh, man, you got it fucked up. It wasn't Smokey. It was Flacco. They'll say it straight up. So when you have a man that's talking about gangs and talking about politics and talking about prison and talking about what yards this guy was in and what he wasn't, what's going to happen? He's going to gain attention. And at some point, law enforcement is going to come into that cell. They're going to come onto that block. They're going to come into that building. They're going to come onto that yard, and they're going to start searching and harassing people because dude is saying too much. So he's drawing negative attention. Now, within the black community, they are trying to go home. They're trying to do their time. Whatever politics that they're playing, whatever they got going on within that yard is theirs and theirs only, just like every other group got their shit going on. But once you start to gain negative attention and shit's getting hit, heads are going to roll. People are going to get upset Because what happens if you have a vecino, which is a next door neighbor, and he happens to be a south side, or you have a northerner on the other side, or some more brothers, man, and they all got it going on. They got their cell phones, but they're low key. They're using it for business. They're using it to talk to their old lady. They're not all on the internet, not all on social media. Because I think going on social media with the cell phone is kind of foolish. And it's not, even more so than that, it's kind of like you're taking a risk, man. Them cell phones could be utilized for other things, conducting business, setting up your family visit, talking to your loved ones that you can't necessarily talk to because they don't put money on the phone. Like, a lot of people utilize those instruments not just to be on Instagram and chatting with girls and doing all that. That's the younger generation that's doing that nowadays. Back then, when cell phones first hit, I remember everybody was very, very quiet about it. If you knew there was one on the unit, man, the last thing you want to do is get someone's cell phone sucked up. You don't want to fucking gain attention from the canine, because if they come in and they hit your neighbors and they take their shit, and especially if it's from another group segment, oh, it's going to be all bad, man. There's been plenty of people murdered and hit on them yards over a cell phone. Many of them, right? Cell phones now there's a lot more of them, but back then they were a very hot commodity. And if you got a cell phone sucked up, if you couldn't help it, if they just came up in your cell, snatched it up, they happened to see you on it, that was on you. You better hope it was yours and you weren't borrowing it from your neighbor or from someone else from your group, because I've seen a lot of dudes get rolled up off the yards, get packed out, get smashed, all behind a cell phone. Nowadays, cell phones come and go. They're all day. But even then, even still so, you don't want to get another group segment or even one of your homeboys' cell phones sucked up. They're going to feel some type of way. They're pretty expensive. You got to have that line to get them. Not everyone does. Some people are connected. Some people are disconnected. No pun intended. It's how it is. Anyways, this dude B Brazy doing what he's doing is kind of not a smart move. But you can't knock a man's hustle, man. He found his niche. He found out that if he just sits there and exposes people and talks about people behind them walls, people are going to listen. And as long as you have it's supply and demand, you can supply it if they demand it. And they're demanding, they want to hear what he has to say, especially when he was speaking on Blueface and other people, even though them lies about Blueface have been exposed to be false and there was no truth to it. Blueface actually did his time the way he was supposed to do his time. I know a lot of people hate on that man, especially now that Jenny 6ix9ine sat on his chorra, and a lot of people want him to have been all bad. But let's break it down. What's all bad to you? See, the black car is different. They don't play the 50-50. They don't play all that, or they used to not. But I'm noticing a change. So here's the change I'm noticing. Lately, it seems like within this last year, I've been noticing the brothers, man, style has kind of switched. It looks like they're getting a little bit more political. It looks like they're actually playing the 50-50. Now, not necessarily the 50-50 yards, but what they're playing is, now that the administration has decided to actually take inmates from the SNY, prisoners from all bad yards, and integrate them with active yards, the brothers ain't playing that shit. There's a lot of brothers, man, that have been doing a lot of prison time on them level 4s that carry themselves a certain way. Okay. And they are now putting it down where if you're programming with chomos and all this type of stuff, they ain't feeling that. You can't come back to the yard. So brothers are actually getting very political lately. And it's not that they haven't been doing it, because whatever they had going on behind the scenes, I wasn't privy to. I used to see meetings. Having done time on the same side of the yard with brothers, man, you get a little bit more privy to a lot of the things going on. Whereas, like, say, a southerner or a white or a paisa, someone that's on the other side of the yard, wouldn't necessarily hear these conversations or hear where they're having juntas and discussing things. They kind of catch you secondhand information, but when you're right there programming next to them, you kind of hear what's going on, right? And the brothers' whole thing, man, was more so gang street shit. I see dudes get packed out or beat up over that, but never was really over what yard you came off of. They never tripped. If we as Northerners brought it to their attention, like, hey, that dude was programming on a bad yard, our bad yard is not their bad yard. So there was never that discussion. There was never that, as long as that dude didn't have badass paperwork and everybody knew about it and he was just a straight up weirdo, then there was never no issue. The brothers could deal internally with their own. And most of the time they did, man. 99.9% of the time they did. But now I'm starting to notice they're playing that 50-50 yard, because immediately after B Brazy got DP'd, and yes, he was DP'd. From what I'm hearing, man, he got jumped on by a couple of his homies, man, behind some of the things he was saying, behind some of the stories he was kicking. When you're in prison and you're telling prison stories, or you're talking shit about people, or there's other dudes that are right there that are going to call your bullshit. They're going to get tired of it, especially when you're gaining negative attention. And now their cell block is starting to get hit over your shenanigans. I remember, if you guys recall, a couple years ago, my brother, man, I call him like a brother, right? Spokio from Salas, Casitas. It's my boy. He reached out to me. He got in contact with me after fucking 15, 20 years, right? Since we're in Nellis together in YA. And he reached out through this YouTube stuff. I was happy, man. If anything, that's a great benefit of being a content creator on social media. Some of your friends from the past or people that you haven't met, and it could work both ways, right? Sometimes you get it back in contact with some good ass homeboys, and then sometimes you get in contact with people you don't want to be in contact with. It's just the way it goes, right? It's two sides to every coin. But anyways, I was happy the day he reached out. So he reached out, what's up, bro? Boom. Kind of ran me down where he was at, what he was doing, his status, all that. Didn't matter. None of that matters to me. All that matters to me that he was healthy and that he was alive and that he was happy. Okay. Or at least he was in the position he was in and where his life is right now, that he was in good spirits. Okay. That's what mattered to me. Because if anyone knows Spokio's story, he's doing all day, every day, right? Does got action eventually out of date. But at this point, man, he's doing multiple life sentences. And it was kind of like a situation growing up with him. And I say growing up because we did 3 years together. I knew that guy's destiny, where he was destined, was going to probably be a lifer in prison. Just his attitude, he was striving for that. He was striving for the cause, and the cause always ends up in death or incarceration forever. And that was the cause he strove for, and that's strove. New word of the day. And that's where he got, right? So he achieved his end game, his goals. But as you grow into an adult and you realize, man, it's for the birds and not the well God, then you realize, hey, this ain't where I want to be. So we had a lot of good conversations behind the scenes. But then he seen me doing my lives and was like, hey, bro, I want to jump on. And I was like, nah, bro, I don't want you to get your cell phone sucked up, because I like these conversations we're having. And I know you utilize your phone for your family, talk to your peoples. And he was like, nah, it's good, bro. Don't even trip. And then I said, well, what happens, bro, if they see this and then they hit the whole block and you get someone else's shit sucked up? His situation was a little bit different because he was placed in a medical facility at that time, in a medical ward, because he's sick, right? So it wasn't really going on like he had it going on. He kind of had shit sewed up, being a lifer and having juice. So whatever. We did that. Next day, I didn't talk to him for about 3 weeks. Next day, they came and popped his cell. They seen the live and boom, they were on him, right? And again, I tried to talk him out of it, doing the videos and doing the live, but he wanted people to hear his voice, because a lot of people were speaking on his name, and there was a lot of stories that were being made up, and he wanted to put it down, right? So he did that. Anyways, his cell phone got sucked up the next day. It was what it was. Like I said, they're watching, right? Thank God no one else got in the way, or no one else's shit got sucked up. But when it comes to B Brazy, what happened was he was saying a lot of things and to youngsters, inciting people, talking that gang politics stuff on the internet. And he's sitting there in prison around a whole bunch of gang members and gangsters. So they felt some type of way. So the word on the curb is he got DP'd. He got DP'd twice by 2 individuals, right? Cell phone privileges revoked is what they said. But we've seen him subsequently since then on a cell phone denying what other people were saying. There was people saying that he got rolled up off the yard. He got sent to a 50-50. He's in PC. He's a lot of different things. But that man actually did a video saying all that's false allegations. Look, the brothers, man, when they get a DP, just like Crip Mac did on Crip, right? Without Cat. When they do their DPs, they handle it internally. It's their thing. And then they're homies again. See, it's kind of different from Mexican politics. I've seen brothers remove people. Don't get it twisted. I've seen dudes get there that their cases are just so crazy that brothers are like, man, you got to chill. You got to go, right? And they get rid of them. But the difference between like the Mexicans and the blacks in the CDC is 9 times out of 10, if a Mexican, especially a northern, right? Southerners will give you a chequeada and then you're good in the hood. Northerners, if it comes to the point where they have to touch you, you're gone. You're out of there. Preferably life flighted, right? But if they can just throw a little, then they don't even do that anymore. Now it's all this. But back then, with the brothers, man, they'll just beat your ass, right? You get the DP, they're going to stomp a mud hole in you, though. The brothers are relentless. I've seen, like, I always tripped out, man, on that thing, right? So you got 3 different groups, right? The whites, they are pretty much the same as the Southerners. They do it the same way. When you're out, you're out. 2 strikes, you're out. Southerners will give you a chequeada. And when they give you a chequeada, it's not just they're just punching you. No. They're going for the gusto. CB4. They're going full pico, full knives, full everything. If you survive it, then you're good, homie. You know what I mean? If you can survive that. There's never been, oh, we're going to take it easy and just slap you up a little bit. Nah, dudes are taking penitentiary chances, meaning there's dudes that are actually doing this DP that are going to face a lot of time in the shoe or the oil. So they might as well fucking kill you. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. That's the mentality. With the whites, pretty much same mentality. Let's go, right? They're just going to dust you. Northerners, like I said, because of the politics, if they have to put their hands on you, it's all bad anyway. So you got to go. You know what I'm saying? The brothers is a little bit different. Brothers will stomp a motherfucking a mud hole in your bacon back. They'll straight up, and then you be on the yard busting the spread. Beat up from the feet up. They be like, oh, man, we fucked this. That's just how they get down. So whether B Brazy was DP'd or not, did he deserve it within the black community? I'm sure they would. If they went as far as to doing that, putting hands on him, it's because he deserved it. He did something bad. Now, look, I know in society, people are like, man, no one deserves to get beat up. Look, that ain't society right there, bro. That's the Thunderdome. That's a different type of society behind them walls, okay? You got to play by different rules. And I'm noticing, like I said, and correct me if I'm wrong, man, brothers, get in here and correct me. I'm noticing the brothers' stats on shit is starting to switch up. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of people that talk shit. Oh, man, the brothers are allowed to go to 50 yards. Oh, that ain't cool. Well, hold up, bro. You're not black, so why are you worried about it? Second of all, you're not rocking how they're rocking. Their politics are different. It's a 50-50 yard because your group deems it a 50-50 yard, or someone in your group says that's an all bad yard. But to the brothers, they're going to whatever yard they want to go to as long as they're doing their time correctly. Now, if they're over there fucking with a chirujo or something, well, then, hey, you know what I'm saying? That's on them. But if they're going over there to the yard, man, and doing their time, no other race, ethnicity can dictate their program. That's just not the way it goes. But themselves, everyone governs themselves. That's why politics are the way they are in the California system. Everyone governs themselves. And in doing so, man, it makes it a lot easier to do time, to tell you the truth, right? Don't matter what side you're on, active or non-active. Everyone governs their own. Everyone takes care of your own, period. Now, I'm noticing the brothers, though, man, are starting to get a little bit more Mexican, right? They're getting a little bit more Mexican. It's starting like their politics are changing. And I think it has a lot to do with the integration. You know, they're integrating actives and non-actives, and when they start doing that, you don't know what type of characters they're bringing over. People have a stigma, man. There's a story out there that everybody that's in PC is there for being a weirdo, and that's not the truth. There's a lot of dudes that got removed or got politicked out of the game or whatever, and they know suckers, right? But at the same time, there's that stigma there that they are, so people are going to run with what they know. So the brothers, it seems like, man, they're starting to throw more DPs out there. They're starting to hold their peoples accountable for being on 50-50 yards. I'm seeing videos being made by people that are like, nah, we ain't fucking with you if you're on a 50-50 yard. So I don't know where Crip Mac stands, because we know where he was, right, when he gets out of the feds, right? But one thing I do know is the brothers, man, are doing their things differently. I'm starting to notice a lot more prison killings that involve the brothers. I'm starting to notice a little bit of a change here, man. With time comes change. With change comes more time. So we'll see how that all works out. But as far as that dude, B Brazy, the word is he did get DP'd. He didn't get rolled up off the yard. Obviously, he didn't get his cell phone snatched up because he's still making videos. Will he learn? I don't know, man. Some guys are just a little bit brazy, right? And they don't. They get checked and it's just not enough for them. Eventually over time, if the wrong person comes on that yard, I've seen dudes, man, that are J-Cat, they act like a J-Cat, or they just cat out, or they just do crazy shit all the time. And eventually they become a liability, and liabilities in prison, especially in California, don't last. Let me know what you guys think. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive for what I truly believe in. That's the betterment of all people. Do I got some supers coming for you the day after Thanksgiving? Don't miss them. Bang, bang.